There we go.
Okay.
And you pinned yourself?
Yep.
Okay, great.
So, oh yeah, I'm the host, so I can do it.
Hmm. The
Speaking.
person who's done this plenty of times now has the power, thank God.
I have the power. All right, I'm gonna check something. Okay, no, do this. Okay, there we go. All right, great. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Lauren and I, this was something that Lauren and I talk about a lot. Um, the issues we can face with family, with partners, all the landmines that can be involved, especially with family, because the things that happened to us or our experiences, I say, as children, are the ones that can go the deepest. So they're the most easily stepped on, or as Lauren likes to say, ouch, you just hit my sunburn. So, Lauren, do you want to? I know that I know people here, so do you want to maybe introduce yourself? And then we'll kind of settle in and I'll introduce myself. And what'd you just do? What did you just do? There we
I
go.
didn't do anything.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Lauren Martinson, and I am a relationship coach and a hypnotherapist and an IEMT practitioner. Um, the reason why we wanted to do this call was because my mom and I speak about these topics all the time, and we come across friends and family who deal with this issue a lot of times, especially around the holidays when most people are kind of forced in some way to be around people that could be triggering. Um, and we just thought it would be really helpful to provide some tools, some guidance, and maybe some mindset shifts to help everyone go into these situations. And it doesn't have to be around the holidays. Like this call is open to anything. If there's anything going on in your life, any sort of situation, you can always put that question forward, and hopefully we can help. And but maybe you'll get something from someone else, even being coached or asking a question, because that happens too. But it's totally up to you what you're comfortable with. If you want to be coached by us, we would love to have you. But otherwise, we're going to just give you some tools in the first probably 30 minutes, um, give some ideas, maybe some, like I said, mindset shifts, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, and we talked about how look, this kind of stuff is very nuanced. There's a lot to it. What our hope is to give you a few core um, tools to go forward with so that you can start playing with these ideas and apply them as you feel fits for the certain situation. And then, I mean, that's how we start to understand better how these things work, right? Because sometimes something that is meant to maybe keep your peace can actually disrupt the peace of others if done in a way that is maybe retaliatory or too big. I love the idea that setting boundaries with people should be so subtle that they don't even register it, right? They don't even register that there is anything different. Like it's just natural. You can't always do that depending on how aggressive the other person is. But
Yeah, sometimes it has to be very explicit.
yes, yes, some people need clarity.
Yeah,
So I think it might help. Lauren, do you want to kind of bring us into being grounded in the moment right now? And
sure. Yeah. So if everyone could just, if you want to close your eyes, you can, and just take yourself inward and just focusing on your breath and allowing yourself to just settle down and feel yourself in your body centering. grounding, and just letting out any tension with each exhale and making sure that that exhale is longer than the inhale. And perhaps setting an intention going into this call, whether you want to just receive the information or you want to share information or both. So allowing yourself to become very present, very focused, and bringing in peace with each inhale and finding the stillness within. And take one last deep breath in and then releasing and letting go with that out breath. And then coming back and opening your eyes whenever you're ready. I needed that too.
Yeah. You know, you know what's funny is that I'm so resistant to that stuff in the beginning. Like I'm like,
Me
can
too.
we just get to it, right? Oh gosh, now I gotta close my eyes. I gotta do like,
I
because
was multitasking and now you're
yeah,
making me.
like I am so resistant. And then I'm always so grateful after, like, okay, I do actually feel better, but I'm like,
Yep.
let's just get to the meat.
It's like exercising. I don't want to stretch beforehand. Just get going.
Just go to it. Um, yeah, so we're going to break this down into two different sections of the tools that we want to give you. And the first section is going to be more based on being grounded, how to ground, how to regulate yourself, um, what kind of mindset and energy are you going to go into these situations with is very important. How many of us, if we are going to be, let's say around family, are playing in our head the movies and stories of every past negative experience going in, right? Is this one going to say this again? Is that one going to do that again? I'm going to have to put up with, and so that by the time we're walking in the door, we're already in the energy of it going sideways. So that's the first section of this call. And because of the fact that what we think and what we hold to be true, we are creators. We end up creating that even if it's not what we want. It's kind of like, did you ever have to have a conversation with somebody and you had anxiety that the conversation was going to go poorly, and then you realize you brought like that anxiety into the conversation, then the other person picks up on your anxiety, and then they're kind of being short, and then you get the very thing that you didn't want. So that's the thing. it's going to be really important to kind of pre-game yourself before going into any situation when you can, right? Because that's going to set you up for a much more positive outcome. So Lauren's my daughter, in case anybody didn't know that. So you'll see our relationship play out in this call too, possibly. But we have we have a good relationship because we've learned how to be able to have hard conversations with each other. So um, obviously that's helpful when the other person is also willing. But we're going to
Mhm.
talk about how you can show up also with the idea that none of us can we're not doing any of this to change other people. We're not doing anything to expect a different outcome from others just because we're going to be different, because that's a trap. I'm I just do want to say that I'm really grateful for you guys being here because whenever we do stuff like this, it's always such a good, I feel like it's such a good reminder to me too, to remember these things. And I appreciate, even though there's no, monetary charge, there's nothing more valuable than our time. So I appreciate you being here. So we're not here to change your family. We're here to change how you experience your family. So, Lauren, do you want to start with the first principle around mindset before you arrive, like in the 15 to 20 minutes before you're going to just show up, or is there something else that you wanted to start with?
Well, I thought that you brought up an interesting point about the energy that we bring to a situation, right? And noticing when we're already activated, let's say going into that situation when we have to have this hard discussion or whatever it might be. And I empathize with people who, because I think there's two types of people who withdraw. I think there's the people that are just like, "Ugh, I don't want to deal with it because, I don't want to be that person that's challenging this person. They just don't like confrontation because they just don't like, they're just too, I would say, passive about things. Like, and they don't really like want it, they just don't want to deal with it. Let's just put it that way. They just don't want to deal with it. And then there's other people I think that avoid those situations because they don't feel like they can trust themselves in that situation. They don't feel like they can come to that situation and maybe talk to that person, about their concerns or talk to that person about something that happened that was, disappointing to them because they feel like they can't control their emotions. So, and we've talked about this before too.
Mhm.
So, I just want to say that there's those two different reasons for why people don't, let's say, have those tough conversations.
Mhm.
Some people just don't see the point, and then other people are just like, I just don't trust myself. It's not even really about the other person. It's about me. Um, so yeah, but regarding mindset going in to a situation, I would say the biggest thing is to continuously ask yourself, how do I want to show up in this situation? And once we ask ourselves that, it's kind of amazing because we kind of think we're already doing that when we're rehearsing it in a way, but we're not really because we're still trying to think about what the other person might do and what they might say. And we're still trying to get into their mind to a degree and predict what's going to happen. And that's not really helpful. It's more like, regardless of what happens, how do I want to show up? Right?
Mhm.
How do I want to feel going into this situation? What thoughts do I want to think about this situation?
Mhm.
And like you said earlier, um, I can't remember the word that you used, but it's like mentally priming yourself
Mhm.
right before going in. And it's not so much the situation that you're going to encounter, it's more of the feelings that are going to come up in you and how you would be able to shift them and how you can prime yourself to just play it cool, to just like, oh yeah, of course she said that thing. Like, how can I be like super breezy about this where it's like, oh, of course she said that thing. She always says that thing and almost make it funny. Oh, of course he did that. He always does that. Right. And it's like almost like you could just be this witness
Hmm.
and find it funny and be like, yeah, and I choose to not be offended by it. Like I'm not
Hmm.
gonna walk away again being like, I can't believe they did the thing they always do, right?
Hmm.
Instead, we can be like, that's hilarious. They're
You,
just being them again. Here
yeah.
we are again. So yeah, I always love the idea of how can we add some humor to these situations and laugh at ourselves. Like when
Hmm.
we're, oh my God, I'm horrified that this person would do this. It's kind of like it's helpful to do that. And yeah, like it really does give it less energy. It makes it lighter and it helps us sort of like detach from it, which feels to me, I think what happens is there's two conflicting things that happen in those situations where I think there's a part of us a lot of times it's like, I want justice, but then we're also saying we want peace. And
Hmm.
those two things start to conflict. So it's like, do you want peace and to preserve your peace, or do you want justice?
Hmm.
Right? I need to tell this person off. I need to tell them how they're treating people. I need to let them know exactly what they're doing. And it's like, well, that is going to interfere with your peace, right? And you wanting peace is going to interfere with you maybe wanting to tell them off. And I'm not trying to say what's right or wrong for you, but I hear a lot of times the people that want peace are also very much the ones that want to defend and go into this. I won't let that person get away with this.
Stand up. I'm not going to not stand up for myself. I hear, and
Yes.
but a lot of times that's you just grabbing that script, that old script, and running your lines and being the other side of the coin, right? And so the expectation, like you're saying, like that expectation when you go in, if you expect that the way things have, so this is delineation here. To expect that other people will be different is setting you up for disappointment, right? Like it's like that definition of insanity. It's setting you up for disappointment. So, but that's different than going in with the energy and anxiety that it's going to go badly. Because if you can accept that it's probably going to be the same way it usually is, right? I'm not going to have expectations. It's not. I'm just going to know how I want to show up. And one of the things that I've talked about in the past is I had a moment where this became clear to me because I was invited to something after work. Can't remember if it was a party or a meeting or gathering. It was something. And I just remember being like, "Ugh, yeah, I wonder what the energy is going to be like in there, in that room." And feeling very much like putting myself in the position of I'm just a bystander responding to what I'm showing up into versus what am I bringing? Why is it other people's job to make the good energy for me? What energy am I bringing in? Because that can change everything. You think about it. You could be sitting in a room with people and everyone's just kind of ho hum, and then somebody comes in with good energy and it like ping pongs around the room. It brings everything up. So when we put ourselves in the position of being a bystander in our life and not an active participant, then it's what is the outer world going to do to us, or what are we going to be responding to in the world versus what are we bringing?
Yeah. And you're really good with that, Mom. I've seen you in situations that were very uncomfortable or awkward, and you definitely brought your energy. Um, and it didn't even look like it phased you. Like you were still upbeat, enthusiastic, positive, and you were going to treat them very kindly, even though they were maybe standoffish or, little weird with you.
What's that? It's that like was it Don Miguel Ruiz thing where he says, don't take anything personally. And if you think about it, how many times have we taken something personally only to find out down the road that whatever was happening had absolutely nothing to do with us? But that's just how we're kind of wired, but we have to be aware of that. It's more about we have to know, look, we're wired for connection. We're wired to not get kicked out of the tribe. That's why we care what other people think and feel. So we have to know what the program that runs in the background, but that when we're aware of it, then we can make different choices that serve us better.
Yeah, and try things on. And, you know, that's the thing too, is I just always found this so fascinating of like asking myself, what if I was the type of person who didn't get offended by things? It's it's an interesting question. And it doesn't mean that I'm just going to wake up tomorrow and not be offended by anything, but it's more of like, huh, what would that feel like if people said things, they said words, and then I didn't make them mean something about me? That'd be pretty liberating.
But Jen
So it's
Sincero
like,
talks, go ahead.
so I was just going to say, like, even if I could just start to implement that, even if it's just 20% of the time,
Yeah.
to me, that's already a success. So it's just kind of trying, like, what would it be like if, if I think back to a situation where I felt my, you know, um, my back going up a little bit, like, oh, they're saying something. Oh, they're about to swipe at my sunburn, and and then I'm gearing up and I'm ready to get offended, right? I'm giving this person so much power right now because they might just say, again, if you just simplify it, they're saying words, and then we're the ones that are giving it all this meaning. We're going, your opinion of me matters more than my opinion of me.
Hmm.
And do I
Well,
want to do that?
is that idea too, is that most of the time the things that hurt us the most are the things that either we're afraid is true about ourselves or we believe is true about ourselves. Because if somebody said something, Jen Sincero says, if you made fun of a tall person for being short, they would just look at you like you're crazy, right? They'd be so confused. It wouldn't land. They'd be like, what are you I don't understand, right? But if you made fun of a tall person for being tall, that's going to hit possibly because they already have insecurities or fears about how they're perceived for their height. I'll share this because none of my family are on this call. Well, except my daughter. I mean, like my family of origin. Uh,
Hmm.
I recently went to see a family member who was in the hospital, had some health issues. And, it's that thing where I've only kind of been around them in short bits for a really long time. And I had these moments of like, wow, I didn't think that I could be hurt like this anymore, right? But with the people that know you best, the people that are in your history, they have an arsenal of things to choose from. And sometimes it's not even intentional. Like, I don't think that this family member in one way intended to hurt me, but what they said hit me in the chest. Like, oh my God, this is like the whole old story of me not belonging anywhere, raised by my grandmother and my aunt and, family members and not like I'm a part, but I'm not really a part. And there's no real support underneath me like there is under other members of my family, which may or may not be true. This is my story, right? So it's not about the fact that you won't feel these feelings at times. It's about recognizing them and then allowing yourself to feel it. I was like, I am not. I'm not going to bypass my feelings because they're based on things that actually happened when I was a kid and that were hurtful to that child version of me. So I don't want to bypass. I don't want to immediately go to, let me put a different spin on this. Let me put a different perspective on this. I want to be able to have my feelings at the same time when that arc starts to come down, when the feelings start to fade, I've allowed myself to feel them. That's the time when I want to start questioning them. And I didn't go through this in front of that family member, right? Like I had my hmm, face on. Okay. I waited until after because in the moment, sometimes we can be flooded and we don't even know what we think or what we feel or why we're even feeling this way. So you need those moments of, quiet time or being alone or going for a walk or, me in the parking lot walking around on the phone to figure out why was that a gut punch? What was it about that? So what we're trying to do is this in around holiday events and around family events is that it doesn't mean that we're going in to straighten things out in the moment. It's allowing ourselves to feel what we feel, but also how long do I want to feel this way? How does it feel to feel this way? And do I want to continue feeling this way? Or do I want to look at this in a way that is both truthful, but also more empowering to me now? Was something
Like
that,
also what you were saying about the family member situation. I guarantee 100%, and this has also been revealed over the years, that no one connected to this particular family member that we're discussing feels that they truly belong either. And that's what's interesting. It's kind of like everyone in the class when everyone has kind of the same question, but no one raises their hand. Everyone just assumes everyone else knows. It's like
Mhm.
everyone else must know what's going on, but I'm the only one that has a question about this, right? And it's like then you start to realize, oh wait, no, everyone is questioning the same thing, or everyone feels the same way of like, I must be the only one, and that's that's what's so revealing over the years is that just seeing the people that we thought were the
Mhm.
in crowd have their have major struggles themselves with feeling like they belong or feeling accepted or feeling that unconditional love.
And like with siblings, right? So you can have siblings where you're all kind of like rolling your eyes about mom or dad, right? And you're all on the same page of like, oh, let's let's try to make this a good dinner because we know what could happen. And then you have the situation where there is the competition with siblings, the kind of if I have to put up with it, so do you. And don't do anything that causes mom or dad to get upset. And it's like the policing of each other, where it's kind of like blood in the water with the sharks. So there's different ways that this can be experienced. Um, so expectations going into these are about other people, and intentions are about us. So you can have an intention going in when we're talking about mindset, like what is your intention? It could be something you could start really small, like my intention is to not get into a fight with anyone, right? It could be I am not going to pick up the mantle. I am not going to try to change people's minds. When I hear people saying things that I know are wrong or I think are uneducated or ignorant or mean spirited, it's not my fight. I'm not going to do it. That could be where you start. It could be I'm going to bring good energy into the room. And if things go sideways, I'm going to go into another room, bring my energy into that room, right? I'm going to do whatever I need to do to protect that. and to just not engage in anything that's going to drain that. So let's talk about borrowed energy versus self-generated energy. So if it goes back to what we talked about, if you go into a room and you're waiting for the room to feel safe, there's a bit of you giving away your power in that moment. But if you bring your own calmness, your curiosity, your neutrality, then you're deciding for you how this is going to be from your perspective, for you. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that? Are you typing, Kim? I'm like pausing because I see that. Okay.
Yeah. She wants you to repeat it.
Okay. So borrowed energy versus self-generated energy. So waiting for the room to change, waiting for the room to have good energy versus that, I mean, that is where we give away our power. So versus bringing your good energy into the room, bringing your grounded energy into the room. I mean, look, these are very different. Everybody's got very different situations. In some situations, it might be confrontational in your family to bring too much positive energy in. You know, you may need to just be a couple steps ahead, but not too big. Like you're the only one that can take these tools and apply them to your specific situation.
Yeah, and how you know as well is ask like noticing, just be the observer of your thoughts going into these situations. Is mo Are most of my thoughts they, she, he, this situation, that dinner, it's externalized, or is it more about me? Like what I intend to do. I want to be this way. What is even going further too, like obviously we're saying these very general terms like being grounded, being centered. What does that mean for you? Like when have you noticed yourself feeling that way? What situations do you notice yourself feeling centered and grounded? And could you take yourself maybe to that place going before going into that situation to where you can center yourself in whatever way that feels right for you? Getting very specific is my point because grounding, that those sound really great. When I hear grounding and centered, I'm like, woo, yeah, that feels nice. But then to actually embody that, that takes that takes a few extra steps. And it's like, what
So,
does that mean for me in that situation if someone's saying something that's meant to be nasty, or if it's even something that's just something that I feel is ignorant or something, how will I maintain this? Like, what would it feel like to maintain this feeling of being centered amidst that?
so, Kim, would you be willing to talk? Okay. Because,
Of course.
great. All right. So you
Mhm.
asked, how should your mindset be if you feel like you don't have the ability to have that self-generated energy going into into a situation, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So in this hypothetical,
Mhm.
what do you feel um, is making it hard to have that?
The um, absolute exhaustion. I'm just so tired is the sentiment.
Okay. And what are you tired of?
It's a physical tired, and it is a um, I, the statement is, I just don't have the energy anymore to do anything with this.
Mhm. Okay. So what the whatever the with this is, right?
Hmm. Yep.
What is it about the with this that you feel is causing you to feel that way?
Um, it's not me, but I suspect that it is. Um, I'm just thinking how this person would respond is because I'm truly, curious, how
Mhm.
to play because this the very stuck energy, and all this.
So is it you you're talking about or somebody else?
Mm-mm, no. No.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm thinking of how the response would be to this situation. So thinking of what they would say in that situation. So repeat it one more time because um, what would they what is the say it again? What
Yeah,
is the
I'll give you this example. If I'm going into something and I am pre-exhausted, right?
yes,
I am pre-exhausted going into something. Well,
yes,
that means that I am carrying a load
yes,
that I cannot I cannot influence, right? Like I feel like I don't have any say over what happens in this situation, over feeling responsible for other people's feelings or being put into positions that I don't want to be put in. There's something about that that feels that the person that you're talking about would have a story about this thing they're going into, probably based on past experience. Like it's not a story like just made up. This is so like if you walk in the door and the first thing that happens is your mother criticizes what you're wearing, maybe makes a passive aggressive statement about you not showing up earlier to give her help, but that's fine. Like if I'm exhausted going in because I know I'm going to be peppered in this way. The reason that I'm exhausted is because I feel like I have to change and influence her vision of me.
yes. That is absolutely the case. I suspect absolutely.
So how
Uh,
you do, go ahead, what'd you say?
and because it's like I want to be the good person.
Right.
I know, and um, I don't want to quit. I don't want to give up. I don't, the alternative is that um, the, uh, not good. So I feel stuck. So this is
Right.
the only choice I have to do is put up with it and to go into this and find some more energy to, come into it again,
Mm-hmm.
rather than speak a truth about, you know, um, something,
Yes.
that is in a part of the situation. So,
And is that person ever happy with all these pretzels you're twisting this person would be twisting themselves into? Does it fill that hole?
um, uh, you might say that it appeases what's the alternative
Appeases,
of what they
yes.
see would be the choice um,
Sure.
in this situation. So, um, that the alternative would be worse, that they, um, would be disappointed with me, that they
Hmm.
might hurt themselves,
Hmm.
that, all these other things that may be possible.
Right. So here's one of the kind of interesting aspects of this is that when we give ourselves away, when we make ourselves our only job is to make others happy or feel like they're the center of attention or feel like we are working for enough for them or doing enough for them. When we give ourselves away in that way. It's because we're afraid that we will not be loved if we don't play that role,
Right. Right.
right?
And yeah, and it it has gone so far to the point of where it's like, I don't care anymore. I just
Great.
don't care.
Yeah, that's
You
But
good.
know?
that's wonderful. That is a
Yeah.
breakthrough.
Mhm. Yeah.
So when you get to the point that you don't care anymore,
Hmm.
you can start to be true to yourself.
Hmm.
And when we aren't honest with the person who's doing this, if we where we're not like, you know, I came when you told me to come, Mom, or I'm here now, and not taking on the feeling like she has this feeling about me or he has this feeling about me, and now my job is to change their perception of me. No, it's about you staying true to yourself. And when you can be true to yourself, guess what? You're coming up against those fears that have you have been stuck. You have been held hostage by your love for someone else and your fear of abandonment, your fear of being unloved. When you can challenge that, guess what? You're going to have one of two things happen. Either you're going to find out that you never actually had anything all along because as soon as you were truthful and kind but clear, right? As soon as you step into that role, if that person leaves you, you never had them in the first place. You only had them by what you were willing to give away. Here's the other side. When you finally don't care anymore and you can finally stop that exhausting role and show up, you give them the opportunity to prove that that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
You give them the opportunity to show you that they may be pissy, they may be angry, they liked the old pattern. They got a lot out of it, right? Like there's no like motivation for them to change. They're benefiting,
Right. Right.
but you give them the opportunity to show you that they still love you. And even if they're unhappy with how you acted or whether they're not going to go anywhere. But while you're afraid that they will, they might as well be going because you don't give them the opportunity to show you that that's not true.
Hmm. Yeah. You know, that it's interesting to see this played out in multiple relationships, not just one
Oh,
person.
yes.
Um, to see that. Uh, and going into the holidays and you're getting together to see the pattern yet one more time replicate itself um,
Hmm.
in those settings. um, Waiting for and being there just to support where there might be an opportunity or not, um, because everybody gets to choose. They get to choose how to show up, right?
Hmm. And the pre-gaming is really important, right? So let's say I'm going into a situation where I have a very passive aggressive and demanding and dramatic person that I'm going to their house and they're hosting something, right? And so in the past, the dynamic has been, you know, they're the martyr, right? Look at me slaving and doing all this. It'd be nice to get some help or whatever. We all know that character.
Sure. Yeah.
So how we could pregame is okay, it's a week before the event, and we contact that person and say, hey, look, thank you for hosting. Thank you for doing all of this. What is it that you need from me? How can I help? Then you get to choose when they tell you what they need. Say, well, here's what I can do of all those things, right? Or here's what I can help. Maybe it's the things that they say are perfectly fine. Maybe they give too much, so you got to trim it down. Maybe they say, "Oh, you just come, it's fine. Don't worry about anything," right? You take them at their word. And you have just given yourself, you're off the hook now. It's not even about, this is not about them. This is about you feeling like, okay, I asked, I'm going by what they said. And so if I walk in the door and there's the same passive aggressive stuff, one is like, look, I know, nope. And I can also say, well, I would have been happy to help more. But I've done the things that you asked, and here they are. And there's no attachment
Hmm. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
them seeing you differently.
Yeah. If it's a long-standing pattern, does it typically, when you have that, I'm just so tired, and that pattern has continued to all of a sudden pick up the bootstraps and then continue to say, all right, I got a really good outlook today. All right, I'm gonna, got this, and I'm not gonna engage in that, or I'm gonna, let that. I'm gonna say I can't do this or whatever I can
Hmm.
do, and then it just crumbles again and gets back
Hmm.
to that exhausted phase.
Yes.
I see that cycle over and over and over. But I feel like there might be a little bit of climbing out, per se.
Hmm.
Not we're talking about a 30-year pattern, you know, uh,
Hmm.
and something that's showing climbing out in the last year or two. So, it's like give a lot of compassion, to how they are navigating that because everybody's always doing the best they can.
Hmm.
So I appreciate that. I really do. But I always wonder, it takes what it takes, I suppose, in terms of how many. Um, I guess I compared it to, and Bob, my husband, he'd be okay with this, me sharing. He stopped drinking in 2012, and, statistically, you quit 7 times or something, whatever it is, before you actually quit. And I would be curious if this would be a similar type pattern, if you knew.
Well, I'm going to let Lauren pop in, but first I'll just say, I think that the thing that wears us out the most is that we're still thinking we can affect the other person. Like if you go
Mhm,
in with good energy, the good
mhm,
energy is for you,
mm.
right? And if the good energy, if you feel like I'm going to have the good energy because it's going to affect them, then you give yourself a job that
Yeah,
you
no, no,
can't do,
yeah,
right?
no,
Like,
no, 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 yeah, right,
and I think that the unpacking it and really being able to see how it went is going to be related to how exhausted you are after it because the exhaustion comes from expecting the other person or the situation to be different. So if it's exhausting and if it keeps like if somebody's peppering you, like obviously we're affected by other people. If it's something, then we have to like find a way out of that.
yeah,
Like now we have to rally for that inner child, and go like, I'm not going to drag you through the mud to prove anything to someone else because I'm still then trying to affect them.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
Thank you for sharing. Lauren, did you have
Oh,
anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, thank you, Kim. I was going to ask that exact question when Kim was saying that she tries to go in like positive energy, feeling good. I was like, that would be exhausting because if you're not centered in that, right, and that's not for you, and you're expecting a different outcome when you do that, then that's the thing that's exhausting. Of course it is because you're just getting kicked in the gut again and again, and you're like, oh God, why do I even bother? And then that's exhausting. And it's okay to care. Like that's the thing too, when you say like, I don't care anymore you might still care.
Well, you probably do for sure.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if it's exhausting, I just want to be gentle about it. But
yeah.
yeah, like that's the thing is like most likely if you're exhausted, then you do care.
Mhm.
Because if you didn't care, you'd be like, just rolled off my back. No energy exerted here.
True.
So
Very
yeah, so that's
true.
the thing. And I think that the biggest thing is acceptance, right? It's like if I just play around with this idea that this person is never changing because
Hmm.
I've tried this for, I think you said something like 30 years. I've tried this song and dance for 30 years. This person, let's just say, is not changing. Because how do I know? Because they haven't for 30 years.
Yeah, yes.
So yeah, accepting that first and
Hmm.
allowing that to sink in and go, okay, so with that idea that this person is not changing and this is who I'm going to get every time, now I go back into how am I going to show up? How am I going to conserve my energy? I don't have to do the whole like over the top, positive, excited. Maybe I can
Hmm.
just go in more neutral, just be like, cool, just going to come in, going to be the observer of the situation, notice the things. And like I said, if you can, find the humor in it.
Hmm. One of the things Lauren and I talked about was so also sometimes give yourself a parachute,
Yeah.
give yourself a back door. So if you know that you're going into a gathering that could go in any direction, like this could be, an explosion, straight out of Jersey Shore, like, or, this could be, blood in the water, like I said, a shark fest. Give yourself a back door. So like what that looks like for me would be like I might show up and go, I've been fighting this migraine all day. I say it in the beginning. I've been fighting this migraine, but I took something and hopefully I'll be okay. So guess what? If the shit hits the fan, damn, my migraine is back. I'm not feeling well. I'm going to have to go. But the way I set it up, because a lot of times, there's a lot of people here, but it's only a few people or even one person that's the problem. And I don't want to create more tension and negative and yucky energy by being like, all right, I'm leaving. That's it. I can't take this anymore. Because now we're all seeing the elephant in the room now. And everyone's like, no, don't show it. Don't touch it. And it just can blow up the whole thing. But if we preemptively have a migraine, then guess what? And it doesn't mean that we can't address the person or the issue the next day, but it is it's having some honor and respect for the other people who are stuck at that table too, or stuck in that situation to not blow the lid off of it. Sometimes blowing the lid off it might be good long term, but this is what I wanted to give you as an option. And is it a bit of a white lie? Yes. But it's not one that you're defending in a way that like you're insisting that your lie is true. Like I've done those before and the next day I've gone, yeah, I had no migraine. There was no migraine. That was my way of getting out. I will straight up tell the truth about it. Like work and I have some jokes, you know, uh, where I've had to say things in the no, I don't have time this week because I need to prepare for that. But the next week, and I did have time, but like, no, I need more time. So, but I always tell myself because, that clears the air. So, oh man, sorry, my phone keeps liking to jump around. Got my notes. So, breath work and having an intention before you go. And some of these things you can be doing a week in advance. Like some of these things, but it's the advance work that's going to help you the most. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's the advanced work that helps you the most. So, like, maybe your intention is like, I don't need to prove or win anything today. I have nothing to prove to anybody here. I don't have to win any arguments. I don't have to prove anything.
Yeah, and I think the other thing just to add is this idea that we have to like clear ourselves of the emotions before going in. And I think it's more the resilience aspect is feeling the feelings and going in anyway with your intention and what your goal is, and being like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to be this person that I want to be as much as possible, along with this anxiety that I'm feeling. It's okay that that's there. I can incorporate that anxiety into this because this idea of getting rid of the anxiety and then being like, now I'm okay to go in. It's like, most likely that won't happen, just like there's a whole book even called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Because we have this presumption a lot of times that all these people that are making moves in the world are not feeling fear as they're doing it. And they are. They've just, they don't let it stop them. That's the difference. They go, yeah,
Mhm.
there's my fear, and I'm doing this anyway. That doesn't dictate what I do next or how I show up.
And this is a practice. There's, intellectually we can all go, oh yes, this makes total sense. And then check, check, check. But we are feeling emotional beings and emotions affect us. And so this is a practice. And you might practice one thing and realize, well, that didn't get the outcome that I wanted. Maybe that was the wrong situation to bring that into. But if I do a post-mortem on that, I can see that probably this other thing might have been better, this other choice or option. So just know you're not going to hit it out of the park all the time, but you're going to see how this can help. And believe me, the pre-gaming is huge. Um,
It's kind of like IEMT, where it's not necessarily that it's not always looking for this 180, that we're going to do this 180. It's the change.
yeah.
We're changing the system in one way or another because we're no longer a part of it in a way. We're not reacting, we're not going into that old
Yes.
role anymore, right? So it's like this is not like 180, I change the whole thing. It's just more like we're changing the way that it usually unfolds. I'm making a move. I see how that works. If I like how I feel about it, if I feel good about it, then great. Let's keep that move going. Sustain that move as much as possible. And that's the thing
So,
too. Sustaining is huge too. I just want to say that because a lot of people think I made the one move and then nothing happened.
well,
That was
because then they're
positive.
back into winning a result from the other person, right? Oh, I
Yeah.
tried that and it didn't work. What do you mean it
Yeah.
didn't work? Well, they
Yeah.
kept doing it. Yeah, but it's not about them. It's about you. If you because that's just showing you that you did something as a way to manipulate another person or to affect another person and it wasn't true to you. Because if it's true to you, it doesn't matter what the other person does.
Yeah. And that's how these expectations can be very sneaky. We can think of it as, oh, this is my intention, right? I'm going to go in there and make this different move. It's like, but underneath that intention is still that expectation lurking.
So it's not the idea that you won't be activated by something. It's more about the win you're looking for is how fast can I recover? How fast can I, you know, process that in a way and respond in a way that I want to versus being fully reactive and feeling at the whims of what other people are saying or doing. And identify what your buttons are in advance. Is it passive aggressiveness? Is it criticism? Is it being compared, the comparisons, boundary crossing, um, people oversharing or resentments, which leads us into you two things. You don't have to answer every question that someone gives you. Pauses are powerful. Let me think about that. I don't know. Let me think about that. Or even just being quiet and thinking, how do I want to respond to this?
That's actually one of the big things that I have one of my clients in particular who is totally about that knee-jerk reaction of if someone asks him, especially his kids, if they ask him, "Hey, can we hang out tomorrow?" Yes. And we had to practice him saying, "Let me get back to you." Because it's and of course what motivates that for, and this is why it's really good to do that reflective work because what's motivating him is guilt because he feels like he wasn't there for them enough growing up. So now he has this knee-jerk reaction that he has to be there and drop everything every time they ask him to hang out.
And
And
then what happens with him? Like what?
he misses out on work because now he's not working. He's always taking time off to spend with them. Then he's stressed about money, and he's also spending money a lot of times going out with them, right? And the simple tweak is you're not saying that you're not going to hang out, but you go, let me get back to you so you can actually sit down, look at your schedule and see what time actually works for you. Hey, I can't do this time, but I can do this time. And it's
Hmm.
like that simple tweak. And it was super painful and hard for him to do at first because he just wants to be there so badly. And it's again, the intention there is to overcompensate and it's to make up for lost time.
Hmm.
And it's coming from a place of guilt as opposed to a place of, yes, I truly want to be there wholeheartedly. Because that's the thing, too, is that when he's there and he makes that knee jerk reaction, now he's with them and he's not super present because now he's stressed about money. Now he's stressed about what he should be doing, that he should be
Hmm.
working. As opposed to if he just made a slight tweak, it could have been later on in that day, would have been the only difference. And then he could be fully present and feel good about himself that he got his own stuff done, his
Yeah.
responsibilities are taken care of, and now he can step into just being present with his kids. So less is more, basically, a lot of times with these situations, a lot of times we feel like we have to tell everyone everything we're feeling in the moment. Like if there's even a hard conversation we have to have, we feel like we have to get it all in. And a lot of times less is more. So if anything, I would say try to get as much as you can in. And it's more about the quality of what you're saying and how you're maintaining your calm in that moment and being grounded. And then you can later, if like something comes up where you're like, oh, I forgot to mention this, you can always go back. You can always say to them, oh, I forgot also to mention this. I just feel that this is really important to include XYZ.
So we've been going into like the second part of this, which is giving you tools for the day, the gathering. So, we wanted to give you some response options too for any kind of like activating or triggering conversations or things that might feel like they're attacking. Um, Obviously, being able to address things calmly is, breathing and taking the time and maybe pausing is going to help you stay more grounded and realize that if you keep saying like this has nothing to do with me, if you look at people like they're children and they're having their temper tantrums, they're playing out all the stuff that they got bullied when they were, when you kind of bring it down to that, it can help you not see it as about you as much. And that's super helpful. You can redirect things. Someone might ask you a question that you don't like, and you might go, "Oh my God, I totally forgot. Hey, Tina, what was that? How was your European trip? I've never even got to ask you about." Do you know what I mean? Like, so you're not going, "Don't ask me that question," or "I don't want to answer that." You just use redirection.
Be a politician.
Yeah.
I don't want to answer that question, so I'll answer this question.
Uh, so that brings us to, um, have you guys heard of, well, so there's a term called gray rocking, and I'm not sure if you have heard of this, but it was coined around the idea of how to deal with someone who may be narcissistic or otherwise overly toxic, maybe hugely passive aggressive and codependent. So, Lauren, do you want to explain, like, and maybe give an example of what gray rocking is?
Sure. Yeah, this is for especially people in your life where you know that they say things to get a reaction out of you. That's the big thing. It doesn't have to be that they're walking around doing that, but you notice yourself getting reactive, let's say, around them. So a good way of doing that is to, as they say, gray rock, which is basically being as neutral as possible. Like you don't give them anything to come up against. You don't give them a reaction. You just kind of say things like, "Oh, interesting. Okay, I hear you." Like like there's nowhere for them to go when you do that.
Yeah.
They might say another hurtful thing, but then you go, "Ah, I see." It's so boring. They're like, "No, where's that reaction? Where's that fire? I need that to keep this going." And then you're also joining me in this toxicity, right? And when you're not taking the bait, you're diffusing the situation and you're protecting yourself, most importantly. That's really the key. Because then what you're doing is you're gray rocking as much as possible. And then if you're able to remove yourself from the situation, then that's the next step.
Mhm. And it's kind of like, so if somebody gives you a passive aggressive comment, you could say, I don't get it, right? What do you mean? And then they, oh, right, because the whole thing about passive aggressive comments is we fill in the blanks and then we respond to the intention underneath that, right? That's why it's passive aggressive. But what if we didn't? What if we're like, yeah, I'm not doing the work for you in that, I'm not filling in the blanks. What do you mean? I don't understand. And then just kind of playing to, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, there's no fun in that. Like I want that fire. I want to see the fiery exchange, or I want to play our old script, but you're not agreeing. You're not doing your role. You're not doing your part. So,
Yeah. I was just thinking like if someone, I'm just thinking this is not super offensive, but it's just an example that came to me where like if someone you're out somewhere and someone just is like, "Oh wow, you're dressed up. You're looking fancy." Hmm. And you're just like, "I know, I am."
so you got to tell the story about where we got that from. So years ago, we read the Four Agreements, and
I was like, "Where is she going?"
we were dying because in it, when he talks about, not taking things personally and all this stuff, and there's this part where he says, so if you're out at a party and someone comes up and says to you, "Oh my gosh, you look so beautiful," you say, "I know, thank you." And we're like, "What?"
I think it was just I know. I don't even know if thank you was
Yeah,
included.
I know.
It was just like, I know. We just would play around. I know.
So he was trying to like address the idea of always, self-deprecating and that kind of
Hmm.
thing. But like we were laughing because like how to be the most hated person at the party. And- but I get the idea of what you're saying. So in terms of the gray rocking, to get back to that, it's just a way of not feeding the energy of that passive aggressive thing or even aggressive thing. Just say, just not giving anything to it and being dull. That's why I call it gray rocking. You're like, you're boring. You're not giving anything. And it's a great way to avoid escalation.
Yeah. And I just want to ask, does anyone want to be coached before we continue? Because we wanted to get to coaching as well and let everyone have their chance if they want to. No pressure.
There are other people on here that other than you, Jessica, just they're just not. Yeah, Jessica's like, I'm the
Yeah.
only one here. No, there are other people So, yeah, so if anybody would like to be coached, or and what we mean by that too is like if you have a scenario in mind and
Yeah,
you're wanting like more specific suggestions, then
yeah.
you can like there's a little hand thing you can raise your little hand, um,
Put it in the chat.
put
Or
it in the
even if you want to
chat.
ask a question in the chat, you could do that too. If you don't want to be necessarily put on the spot, you can just write your question in the chat, or you can even share anything that's come up for you so far in the call. Maybe like a certain scenario that you're going to go into that you're planning on being a different way and what that looks like. Whatever it is, that's coming to you, but no pressure.
So what we're working to avoid in this is being impulsive, sup like over emotional suppression, spiritual bypassing. That's that like go right into the meaning of something without allowing yourself to feel it, to understand it, to be human. Um,
Or
Abandon
that toxic
toxic
positivity
positivity,
that Kim
right?
was kind of talking about, right? Like where it's like I'm going to bring myself up to this point, right? And it's exhausting for me, but I'm going to try to get through this with this positivity. But then, it's almost like uh, the further the fall when you do that, as opposed to just going in, like I said, being neutral.
So what we want to share with you guys, what this has been about is teaching, emotional responsibility, um, having self-respect without aggression, being compassionate, but also having boundaries.
You can lovingly say no.
Yes.
That's the thing, is like we feel like we have to, and this happens a lot where we want to feel sometimes justified and almost angry in order to get ourselves to say no. Like if I have to do this thing or be this person, I have to pump myself up. And it's like, well, how about if we imagine lovingly saying no? Like I love you and I don't want to do that. Or I love you so much. Like how can I give this person or the situation so much love and say no?
Well, what I find too is that what's really interesting is that most people can tell somebody else, not the person that it's about, but somebody else. They can go, you know, they asked me to do this thing and I love them and I really don't want to let them down and I know it means something to them, but I have so much work and there's no way that I can get it and I don't want to hurt their feelings, but I feel like if I say yes, I'll resent it because and it's like all of that you just told me is what you need to tell them. I
Mhm.
don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want to let you down. I'm afraid that saying no, you know, will be upsetting to you, and that's not my intention. At the same time, I'm overloaded with work. I have so much to catch up. I just don't have the time to do it right now. And I'm afraid if I say yes, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Isn't
Like
it?
and like I want to be present with you or I want to really fully be there wholeheartedly with you for that and I won't be able to. Like that's a great way of saying it too. Like
Yeah,
it's along the lines of what you were saying. So just to yeah.
exactly. But those are the things that we need to say. The things that how we would explain the situation to someone else is typically what we need to say to the person. But also at the same time, without having any kind of control over how they interpret. We do our best, right? We do our best if they have questions, but at the end of the day, we can't be responsible for their interpretations. So here are a few integrations. One is, who do I want to be when I walk in?
And actually, I would love everyone to really ask themselves that right now and really plug into that and reflect on that. Because I know that a lot of this work, it could be very like cognitive, where it's like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's a great question for later. But let's try to actually plug into that and get it at least started now, a sense or an
Mhm.
idea.
Like if I was to ask that question, if I was going into a family gathering, I would say, who do I want to be? Okay, so I want to be warm. Um, I want to be approachable. I want to also be very grounded. And what I mean by that is that I'm not going in wide open, emotionally expecting other people to always be kind. I'm like, I have a bit of my protection around me, right? But it's not a defensive protection. It's just I acknowledge that this is where things can get a little hairy, and I'm going to stay grounded in that I'm not going to respond to things. There are going to be things around me that if I wasn't paying attention, I would probably respond to, but I'm going to be very present. And that's how I want to walk in. That's the energy that I want to bring. And then the next question is, what energy do I want to leave with?
That's a great question. Because a lot of times we're like, just went into battle, exhausted.
Dying on my sword.
Yeah. Or God, now I'm beating myself up because I handled it this way or that way, right?
Right. And don't be, I mean, there's
Yeah, there's no sense in that, but
no sense in
we
beating
we can
yourself
do it.
up.
Yeah,
You do your best, and if there's anything to clean up the next day, then clean it up. If you have apologies to make, or if you want to make sure that there's more clarity around something, or then do face it head on, clear the air, but forgive yourself, right? And like you're even if you go in with an intention, you're doing more than probably most of the people in the room. So give yourself credit.
definitely.
Um, let me see here. So the expectation of changing others. So a question, I did relate with the expectation of others changing. My sister-in-laws are always, why doesn't she question mark blank, right? Or couldn't she just about my mother-in-law? I feel that I'm the only one that accepts who and how she is, therefore applying boundaries to not allow her to attend their functions. So are you saying that you have set the boundary that she is not allowed to come to the functions because you are accept well that is a healthy boundary, right? Like if somebody comes and let's say they get shit-faced drunk and start fights and just destroy every gathering, it's like the definition of insanity of inviting them every time and expecting it not to happen. It is actually a loving and leadership decision to change that because you're saying that I value everyone else that's coming
Mhm.
and I will protect them from things like this, right? And also, actions have consequences. And when we don't have people have consequences for their negative actions, we are not helping them in any way because it is usually pain and suffering that drives people to change. Did you want to
I
add anything?
feel
Hmm.
that, like with this current situation, it's very cyclical. Like they've done the same thing. They've said, okay, you can't. And it lasts a couple months. And they think it will be,
Enough.
Mhm.
she mentally isn't capable.
Hmm.
Um, she just mentally isn't capable. So I guess that's, 2 months isn't enough, or the okay, I'll be good next time thing. What I did send ahead of this was we feel guilt over it. At the holidays, we feel guilt over having blocked her for now over a year. I mean,
Hmm.
we've been like, no, sorry, a month isn't, um, because it truly is an unhealthy situation and not
Hmm.
safe around the kids and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
that's my deal. Just dealing with that guilt, and every time a holiday comes around, we kind of look at each other and go, I wonder if she has food. I wonder if, you know, whatever.
I wish it wasn't
It,
like this.
yeah,
I wish this
exactly.
wasn't like this. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's the only holiday thing.
I just posted um, something that seemed to be resonating with people, which was uh, you will never be entirely free until you're willing to be the villain in someone else's story. And this is
So true.
exactly what that is. So, in your mother-in-law's story, you're the villain, right?
Sure.
What a horrible person you are. You disinvited her, you've blocked her. And other people allow the behavior because why? Not because she doesn't prove over and over again that she'll continue to behave in the same way, but they cannot stand being the villain in her story.
And I have to say, just, with 20 years experience, there has been one interesting thing when you say, consequences for your actions. I have truly had, two sister-in-laws going, well, she doesn't do this to you. She does all these huge games. And I said, because I don't allow it.
Right.
And
Hmm.
and it's been proved time and time again. And that is, yeah, it doesn't lessen the you wish it was different. I wish my kids
Hmm.
had a real grandma, but it's
Sure. Reality.
that part's hard. Yeah.
It's reality. But look at that. I just want to point out you are very clear about what you are not available for. And because of that, your outer world matches that clarity. You can do that and start playing with that in other areas of your life
Yeah. I actually thought that in the beginning of this call. I'm like, yeah, this is about holiday gatherings and everything else.
and everything else.
And everything
Yeah,
else. Isn't it
Exactly.
all? I mean, but so thank you both.
absolutely. And I think that there's a difference too with your situation as well. There's a difference between punishing someone
Mhm.
and protecting
Right.
yourself.
Mhm.
And it's really important to remember this is not to punish this person. This is to
No.
protect.
Yeah. We're just taking their lead. Like this is their behaviors, and this is our response to their behaviors. And they may want to just focus on our response and minimize and downplay their
Right.
behaviors, right? But we have no control over that. That works for them. Of course, they want that. So, look, families are hard. We love them. We want all the warm and fuzzies. We want things to go well. Um, but how we show up is really going to flavor our experience. And I'll tell you what, when you go through a gathering and you can keep your sanity and keep your inner calm and not pick up the bait, not take the bait, not feels like a superpower afterwards. Like it feels completely different. And you can watch, I mean, I have been in things where I've watched other family members go, I'm like, wow. And then, it's like watching a tennis match, and you're going, why would you? And you're thinking, why would you even give that a response? But there they go, right? And you can almost write the script. She's going to say this. He's going to say that. He's going to say that. He's going to say that. I could always play this out. So,
I have something to add to that. I
yes.
do feel like that primarily all of the people on this call are all female, it looks like. And I think that this stems from a place of us just not being taught or demonstrated self-love, because all the boundaries are is just like a protected love layer of ourself and exhibiting our self-love. But how
Mhm.
we treat ourselves and what we allow in our homes and the family members we decide to surround ourselves with or open our doors to, that's how we're also showing how they can treat us, how we treat ourselves. And that is like that's what we're permeating within our household and showing our children and teaching the next generation of that act of sovereignty and just our own self-love through acts of boundaries, which seem harsh but are really just finally recognizing what we need for the first time.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Yeah, and love is a verb, everyone. Love is a verb. So if you're confused about what self-love is, it's how am I taking care of myself? What am I doing? Right? Like love is, all right, I'm not going to put myself in that position. I'm not going to have this argument. Um, I'm not going to take myself down. A lot of times with people with substance issues or drinking issues, it's because they give themselves away by numbing, right? And not addressing the issue that is causing the disruption, the problem. So love is an action word. So self-love is like, is that what am I doing to look out for me? If I was a child, would I put my child in that situation?
Right. It's so much easier to look at it through that because we can protect fiercely our children or even our little selves, but it's harder to do it to our grown-up selves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and Mom, you touched. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry. There's a quote that I had to make difficult decisions with some of my family members of having to what what I said was that I had to love them from afar, that I could not love them up close like that, meaning like holidays and such. And really the thing that kept coming to mind was that I can no longer compromise my values to make other people comfortable. And that was like really where I drew the line in the sand and thought that it was really harsh and cutting people out, but uh, watching people come back into my life and me soften and giving
Yeah.
myself the compassion, because sometimes situations do change and those people come back into your lives,
Yes.
and being compassionate with yourself when that happens, to not judge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So much
Mm-hmm.
self-love, right? That's all it
Yes.
is.
Yes. And and that touches on something that I think that is important too, which goes back to the affecting others, which is there's a piece of this too that we want to be able to have tolerance for people who think differently than us, right? To have tolerance. And because a lot of things have been framed around the idea that we see there is a kind of projection that goes on, right? So if this person thinks this way, I now project a whole lot of other things onto them because they see something this way over here. And so, and there's a difference, right? There's a line in there where are they beating me with their beliefs? Are they shoving things in my face that are hurtful and make me sad and I don't want to be around this? And that is a absolute um, logical choice, right? Or or is it not that bad? It's just that I know how they think or feel from other things, and I am struggling to tolerate people who think differently than me. Does that make sense? And I think like I have been in your shoes where I used to say red flag, see ya, like everything was just like bye, 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 not doing, not doing. And then, yeah, over time, I've softened and realized that if I keep doing that, I'm going to be alone, right? I'm going to be alone because everyone's going to make mistakes. Everyone's going to hurt my feelings. Everyone's going to, if you're around people long enough, everyone's going to have their own issues. And if I hold everybody up to a standard that's not flawed, then I'll be alone. And I also judge myself that way. So where's my tolerance? I have to have more tolerance and accept people that on their own journey. And as long as it's not hurting me directly, that's something that I feel very strongly about because I feel like in society we are pulling away from that and we are going into camps and tribes and and it's very toxic. And it is literally the definition of a pathological relationship playing out in society, which is we project things onto people, we tell people who they are and what they think based on one piece of information. Good guy, bad guy, black and white, everything's black and white. There's no ability to have discussions or talk. So I think that starts with us. And and yeah, and it's hard to be around people that believe things that we are maybe the antithesis of our beliefs, right? Um, and it's always going to be up to us as to where the line is on that, you know? But I I definitely feel in my own life that my life has improved as my tolerance has improved of people having other opinions. And when I allow that and I can actually talk to them, I a lot of times get information I didn't know. And I also realize that their opinions are based on logic. Maybe their logic is, I may feel it's flawed or whatever, but it's not based on projections of mine or society. Does that make sense? So,
And we're all a victim of algorithms, remember? Like that's the thing that we just don't, I feel like we know it on a certain level, but then we keep consuming the same information going, I have all the answers. I know exactly what's going on in the world. And it's like, no, we don't. These systems are designed to keep feeding us and giving us what we like, what makes us feel good, and confirms our beliefs. So, we're all competing with each other with algorithms.
but we see it with other people, the people on whatever
Yeah.
other thought processes. We see it like, oh, you're just reading that, or you're believing that BS, or you're. But we don't realize, like, if you watch the movies about social media and stuff, you realize that, but it's all of us. So,
Yeah. We're all in
um,
our own bubble.
and I think that the worst thing that happened was the the advice that holidays are a time for you to go and stake your flag, put your flag in the ground. And that is a very intolerant, aggressive. It doesn't say, oh, ask questions or like have tolerance and maybe have conversations where, fosters different ideas. It was go home and beat your family with your beliefs. And our family, like we only have one family. So even if we only want 20% of them and the rest we can leave, there's still value in that. So, and I'm not saying any of that applies to you, Jessica. It just made me think about that, that other aspect. Because, whenever you say one thing over here, there's also a way it can be interpreted over there. Well, I have one. My closing line is basically, or our closing line is basically, every time you choose regulation over reaction, you change what gets passed down. Because ultimately, we want every generation to be better than the last.
Remember that regulation doesn't mean that you feel regulated. You could be screaming inside, but you're responding differently to the situation.
Yes.
And then that can create, now that you responded differently, now that's one less thing that you're going to walk away feeling like, oh, I could have handled that differently, right? It's less layered. Now it's that person and their stuff, and my side of the street is clear. And I set an example too. That's the other thing. You're showing other family members too how it can be.
Exactly. Exactly. You give other people permission to do it differently too. So I want to honor everybody's time and thank you guys so much for participating too, because it's so much better when we can use real stories and real situations as examples to what this looks like. Any last comments, quotes, questions? Nope. Okay. Thank
You're
you.
welcome, Jan.
Yes. Thank you
Yeah,
guys.
thank you for participating.
And I hope that your holidays are just 10% better than they would have been without really getting intentional. If you get 10% increase every year, you're good. You're going to be great. All right. Have a wonderful holiday.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.